My history with this franchise isn't like most. I wasn't even aware of the Arkham games until Origins had come out in 2013 and a friend had told me all about the wonderful world of crippling criminals. For the longest time, my console of choice was the Nintendo Wii U. Yeah, I know, silly Billy over here. So that limited my access of Batman games to Arkham City Armored Edition and Arkham Origins. And the Lego Batman games, I guess. I played Arkham Origins a couple times through, but it was Arkham City that really captured my attention. I've put in thousands of hours between different releases of the game, and I'd put it up there in my top 3 favorite games of all time. I would eventually get my hands on a PS4, and the very first game I popped in was WWE 2K19. But after that, it was straight into Arkham Knight, and now I've put many hours into that game as well. You may have noticed that I've yet to mention the first game, Arkham Asylum. My first and only playthrough of Asylum was on PS4 through the Return to Arkham bundle. I played it all the way through once and didn't think much of it, so I never went back. I go back to the other 3 games, especially City and Night, quite often to play challenge maps and whatever, but I never felt the urge to come back to Asylum. That is until today, where I'm giving it another chance, and yeah, I'm gonna be playing the Return to Arkham version. I've heard that people think the graphics are worse than they were on 360 and PS3, but I don't care. I think they look fine.
Talk. Yeah, sure. Good.
Our story begins with Mr. Batman taking a recently apprehended Joker to Arkham Asylum because he was probably doing some clown shit, I don't know. As they arrive, Dr. Batman says something doesn't feel right, so he follows the Joker inside. Surprise, surprise, it's a trap, and Joker escapes letting all the inmates out and taking control of the asylum. You may be thinking to yourself, well, why doesn't Batman just leave or call in reinforcements? Joker announces to the city that if anyone steps foot on Arkham Island, he will detonate a couple little bombs he placed throughout Gotham City. Uh-oh, guess we're stuck. With the help of
Officer Bowles,
Commissioner Gordon is kidnapped. While tracking Gordon, Batman is exposed to Scarecrow's fear toxin, causing a bunch of spooky stuff to happen. Batman uses his superior intellect to combat the toxins. Batman finds Gordon and apprehends Harley Quinn, but is interrupted by the newly released Bane, allowing Harley to escape. Batman uses a little bit of vehicular manslaughter to defeat Bane and continue his pursuit of the Joker. Professor Batman learns of something called Titan, being developed by Dr. Young. It's essentially just the venom that Bane uses, but you don't need a constant supply to stay buff. Just one quick shot and
I'm buff!
The Joker had been paying Dr. Young to create Titan under an alias, so she wasn't aware she was being evil. She tries to back out when she learns the true identity of her supplier, but Joker doesn't take no for an answer and responds accordingly.
Oh my god!
get out of the way!
Joker's true plan is to create an army of Titan-fueled thugs to
take over the world.
Joker gives Poison Ivy some Titan and it causes her plants to bird up all over the island. Batman has to travel to Killer Croc's lair to collect some rare spores that will create a cure for the Titan and kill the plants. While there, he has one last Scarecrow episode before the scary guy gets taken behind the woodshed by Croc. You then casually play the best part of the game and escape with the spores. Robin's stepdad pulls up to Ivy's crib, kills her, and then it's time for the final battle with Joker. Batman confronts the Joker, but he reveals that he's captured Gordon once again.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
Joker manages to shoot Batman with some Titan, but he resists the transformation long enough to administer the cure on himself. Joker, being the jealous piece of shit he is, injects himself with some Titan. After an anticlimactic boss, Batman defeats Joker and brings peace back to Gotham. Right? That's what happened, I'm pretty sure. Like, what? I'm mixed on the story as a whole. All the things that actually happen are typical Batman stuff. We've seen it all before. The Titan Joker thing was done years before in this show right here. Nothing really happens in the story. Joker takes the asylum and Batman stops him. No more, no less. However, where I think this game truly shines is the presentation and atmosphere. You'll recognize the voices of Batman, Joker, and Harley Quinn from the Batman animated series. Kevin Conroy as Batman and Mark Hamill as the Joker are the definitive voices for these characters in most people's eyes, and it's always great to hear these actors lend their voices to these characters. All the other characters are great too, and fit right into the world that this game is building. Batman's interactions with these characters feel like a continuation of their relationship that was laid out in the animated series. And I know this technically isn't a continuation of that series, it's still nice to have that familiarity. The game goes out of its way to build its lore and tell you things about the Asylum and Batman's history. There are tons of detailed character bios that you can read if you're into that kind of thing, and half of these characters aren't even in the game. On top of that, there are interview tapes you can find that expand on the lore of the characters actually in the game. Ooh, some of these art pieces are kinda, ooh. Moving on to the presentation, this is a dark game. Like, thematically. This is borderline a horror game with all the spooky stuff that happens. As you walk through the halls, you hear screaming psychotic inmates and see carnage everywhere you go. There's jump scares, tense moments, and don't get me started on the scarecrow sections. The game does a phenomenal job building atmosphere and keeping you immersed in the game, except when the characters start talking.
It's not cool.
I know I just praised the voice acting, but there must have been some miscommunications when recording lines, because sometimes Batman sounds like in a completely different situation than what the line is appropriate for.
Ready for the next round?
Always.
What?
I'll never let you win. Never.
And I gotta say, Batman's got a weird face here. I don't know how else to put it, but he's got a weird face. The gameplay consists of three main elements: combat, stealth, and exploration. Let's start with the combat. Believe it or not, the combat here is rhythm-based of all things. Batman starting off can attack, counter, cape stun, and flip over enemies. You'll bounce from enemy to enemy, either attacking or countering and permanently damaging these guys' brains and limbs. If you continue to attack and counter in a consistent rhythm, then you'll build up a combo, and not only is this extremely satisfying, but also allows you to perform extra attacks and gain more experience you can spend on upgrades. Once your combo gets high enough, you can perform either a special combo throw or an instant combo takedown where Batman breaks some more bones casually. Now, you may have seen Donkey's video on Arkham City where he criticizes the combat by showing a clip of him spamming the attack and counter buttons and it working. But, no hate on Donkey, I think that video is hilarious, but yes, you could technically spam attacks and counters, but that's not fun. If you want to get the intended enjoyment from the combat, you follow the rhythm and do the fancy stuff. While the combat is fun, it is also pretty simple, so to keep the combat from getting repetitive, new enemies are added as you progress. There's knife guys that you have to cape stun first, and stun baton guys that you have to jump over, and well, that's it. It gets more complicated as the series progresses, don't you worry. Moving on to stealth, your objective here is to take out all enemies in the room without being spotted, because they'll shoot you and guns are bad. There are many ways to accomplish this, the most basic of which being the silent takedown. You sneak up behind a guy and take him down silently. Other ways include knocking enemies down with batarangs, exploding walls onto people, smashing through ceilings, or these inverted takedowns. The two things that bring it all together are the grappling hook and detective mode. With the rather limited movement here, you'll spend most of your time grappling from these gargoyles conveniently placed everywhere and gliding down to enemies to make your move. While perched on these gargoyles, you can activate detective mode to plan out your attacks. Detective mode highlights all enemies and interactables, making it easier to strategize and coordinate your attacks. Finally, we have exploration. In between combat and stealth encounters, Batman will have to navigate the asylum using his gliding and grappling skills, as well as his detective abilities. It's not that complicated. Lots of the time you'll sit in detective mode following a trail that leads you to your next objective. You'll run into the occasional simple puzzle or obstacle that you'll grapple over, or use one of the many gadgets to bypass, including explosive gel, the cryptographic sequencer, or the line launcher. Honestly, these are the weakest parts of the game for me. I'm usually just waiting to get to the next combat or stealth encounter, but they're not bad, just kinda simple in this first game. Adding a little more depth to these moments are the Riddler trophies. Riddler, being the lamest virgin in the entire world, decided to spend his time hiding trophies and placing riddles all over the island for you to find. Finding the trophies themselves is kinda whatever, but solving the riddles tests your overall Batman knowledge, and I think they're fun to solve. I said at the beginning that I only played this game once before and never felt the need to come back to it, but why? With all the things I've said, this seems like a great game, and it is, but compared to the other games in the Arkham series, this one falls a little short. The jump from Arkham Asylum to City in terms of gameplay is so huge that it's hard to go back to Asylum, especially since I played all the other games first. The free-flow combat and stealth mechanics are much deeper in Arkham City that it makes Asylum seem stiff and limited by comparison. In a vacuum, by itself, Arkham Asylum is an amazing game with fun mechanics and a deep, scary, well-developed world, but compared to Arkham City, one of my favorite games of all time, it doesn't hold up. Also, the bosses suck.